Hello there. Now, Tokyo has had one of the most unusual responses to the current outbreak in the world, and many people have asked me what the situation is like on the ground here. Well, in this video, what we're going to do is walk around the world's largest red light district and have a look at what lockdown in Tokyo looks like. Stay tuned. It's about 9:30-ish p.m. on Saturday, the evening of the 18th of April 2020, a few days after the entire country of Japan has been put into a state of emergency. Here we are alighting the almost empty train at Shinjuku Station, which is the largest train station by passenger volume on Earth. You can see that the time as we walk down the platform is 9:33 p.m. and the next train will be arriving at 9:38. You can also see that the station, like the empty train carriages, is almost completely empty. Now we're going to walk outside and surface to the outside by the Alta building, or under the Alta building, which is a famous studio where many of the mindless Japanese TV talent shows are made. And while we do that, just a couple of plugs for my social media, the Twitter and Instagram, as there's very little to see in this stairwell. So now here we are, exiting up front the JR Shinjuku East exit. Taking a quick look, what you notice is it's mostly empty streets at 9:30 p.m. on a Saturday night. Now, let's talk about the Japanese response to the current crisis. First of all, let's put this into perspective. We are now in Shinjuku, one of the largest hubs in Tokyo, which is the largest city in the world. The greater metropolitan area has a population of about 38 million people and has a larger GDP than either New York or London, or of countries like Canada, Australia, or Mexico. It's a big place. Now, the Japanese government has been very hesitant to shut down the economy here and was hoping to combat the current outbreak through the tracking of clusters. It was only very recently that it declared a state of emergency for Tokyo, Osaka, and the Fukuoka areas, but just a few days later gave into social pressure and declared a state of emergency for the entire country, and that was a couple of days ago. The government has also been teetering back and forth and has recently backtracked on the promise of providing 300,000 yen, or about $3,000, to the country's most vulnerable people, and has now announced that everyone will be getting 100,000 yen, or about $1,000, regardless of circumstance. Which, in my mind, is particularly wrong-headed, as pensioners or workers at large Japan Inc. companies don't need an extra infusion of cash the way single mothers or families that have to take care of handicapped members do. The problem with Japan is that nobody ever wants to take responsibilities for decisions made, because Japanese are very much into punishing socially and economically anyone that makes the wrong decisions. And with that in mind, you start to get an understanding of the current state of affairs that we are in Tokyo. Neither open or closed. Suggestions, not rules. Opaque. Very, very opaque is the word I'm looking for. There is no lockdown in Japan. Everything that is being done is at the behest or suggestion of the government. People are not obliged to stay home, close their businesses, or anything of the sort. They are asked to. Needless to say, there has been confusion at all levels of government on who is responsible for making decisions during the current crisis. The national government in Tokyo has also explained that they do not have the constitutional right to force people to stay in their homes, in that they do not have any legal procedure or precedent to compel people to stay off the streets. Thus, what the Japanese government has done is instigated a state of emergency. Not that it legally means anything, but they are using this so-called state of emergency to suggest that people stay at home and close their businesses. Now we're walking across the street from the Shinjuku station area into the largest red light district in the world. Now, it may not look like it, but Kabukicho is pretty much as rowdy as Japan gets. Now, as we walk this Saturday night, you will notice that the vast majority of businesses, as in the restaurants and bars, are closed. But not all of them, as there is no legally enforced lockdown, as I said previously.
客引きに路上で渡したお金は絶対戻ってきません。客引きにはお金を渡さないでください。こちらは新宿警察署です。客引きは店を案内するふりをしてお金を騙し取り、あとは知らん顔です。
Now, as we walk, you will notice that the touts for brothels, soapland, and other adult health delivery systems, as they are called in Japan, are still trolling the area looking for customers that are just not here. This is the front of the famous robot restaurant. Lots of love hotels and girls to be had to the right here. Thus, all of these touts congregating, just trying to find customers that, again, aren't here.
"結局、大損するのはあなたです。こちらは新宿警察署です。
客引きの処分。新宿区内は条例で客引きは禁止されている。君たちの勧誘による被害は。
As we round this little park/temple, you can see the Excite Room that sells, well, excitement. I'm not sure what kind, but most likely it's the adult kind. And it's still open for business, as you can see. High school girls being their speciality, it would seem. Again, looking down the main road of Kabukicho, soapland touts, but zero customers. But here, you will notice, bars and restaurants that are still open and still with patrons. Here, as we round into a large plaza that many of you that follow my Instagram might recognize, as during the day I try and help injured birds here. It's also a place where drunkards have large sit-down picnic-type piss-ups that sometimes end in brawling. There's the famous Godzilla. Now, just wandering through the back streets, you will see some guides here negotiating with some of these fine ladies of the night. You can see that most of the bars and restaurants are closed. But again, not all of the bars and restaurants are closed. Again, another shop specializing in high school girls that's still open and ready for business, with the doorman there ready to greet any customers that stroll along, so long as they are Japanese, that is, as most of the places here in Kabukicho that deal in Japanese women, most of them are off limits to gaijin or foreigners. Here the gaijin can partake in Chinese or Filipino women, but most businesses with Japanese women are simply not welcoming to outsiders. Again, here is another bar, restaurant type place that's open, as you can see, in a sea of closed up shops.
客引きに注意してください。客引きの言葉は全部嘘です。客引きに 路上で渡したお金は絶対戻ってきません。客引きにはお金を渡さないでください。こちらは新宿警察署です。
Kabukicho諸君、新宿区内は
We're now coming out of the red light district, out of Kabukicho, and you can see the famous sign at its entrance here.
かなり多く発生している。客引き行為は違反である。直ちにこちらは新宿警察署で
ご通行中の皆さん、客引きに注意してください。客引きの言葉は全部嘘です。客引きに路上で渡したお金は絶対に戻ってきません。客引きにはお金を渡さないでください。
Making our way back to Shinjuku Station, you can see that the streets are pretty much empty. Now again, there is a state of emergency in Japan, but legally it doesn't mean anything. Everything that's going on today in Japan is merely a government suggestion. One thing that distinguishes Japan from other countries, at least in my opinion, is that the Japanese people are used to crises and are able to act in their collective interests. Generally, that is. Now, it's hard to say how this will progress, but that said, I just wanted to give people on the outside a glimpse into the Japanese response, and in particular, the Tokyo response to the current crisis and how things look on the ground.
無用なトラブルに遭わないように注意してください。こちらは新宿警察署および新宿駅前商店街です。
Now, finally, we've made our way back to the Alta building and our starting point at the Shinjuku Station East exit. Now, that's it. That's the end. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked this little tour of Kabukicho, please consider subscribing. Also, if you are subscribed, please double check that you are still subscribed, as YouTube regularly unsubscribes people without their knowledge or consent. Again, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.